Carl Henderson was a self-made millionaire. He grew up in poverty in the Midwest, one of 8 children. His father was a farmer, and like most small farmers in that era, he struggled on a day-to-day basis to pay his bills and keep from losing his farm. Farming had become a huge industry for corporate conglomerates, and they were steadily putting the smaller farmers out of business. Carl's father held out as long as he could, but eventually his debts overcame his profits, and the bank foreclosed on his farm, leaving him destitute. After that, he only found sporadic employment, picking up work when it was available either with one of the large agricultural corporations or with local factories. Carl remembers it. Quote, "My dad was a good man, a good farmer, and a hard worker. He loved the farm and loved working it. He never really cared if he made a lot of money. He was content with an honest day's work and a profit enough to provide for his family." When these big farming corporations came on the scene, farming, like everything else large corporations got their hands on, became less and less personal. The small farmers were dedicated and cared about what they did. They chose that career for a reason, because they loved it. You almost had to love it, because it was not an easy life. But with these corporations, it was just a business. These guys were in it for the money. They wanted to be the only game in town, and like most other businesses, they were only interested in the numbers, the bottom line. How much can we produce, cutting as many corners as we can, spending as little money as we can, using all the technology we can, and as few human beings as we can. This may sound a little hypocritical coming from me, a guy who has become extremely wealthy due to several corporations that I own, but that is how and why I know this. I know how it works. Business is all about the profit. I don't consider myself a typical businessman, and there are plenty of others who are wealthy who don't fall into that category either. But sometimes we make decisions based on what's good for the company, not necessarily the environment or the workers. Our system rewards choosing profits over conscience. For example, you have a company that makes widgets, and you make widgets that last forever. Once someone buys a widget, they will never have to buy another one. And people can let their friends and families borrow their widget, so not everyone has to own one. People can pass their widgets down from generation to generation. So at the outset, when people discover what a great product widgets are, you may sell quite a few widgets. But after that, when most of the population owns or has access to a widget, your sales will drop dramatically. You won't get any repeat business. In fact, you will put yourself out of business. So you start making widgets that with regular use will only last 3 to 5 years before wearing out. This would be considered a good business move. It assures repeat business and gives your company long-term sustainability. And for just a few more dollars, you give the customer the option to buy a 3-year warranty on your widget, just in case it breaks before that, which you know, under normal usage, it won't. So it's like getting free money every time someone buys the warranty. And you encourage your salespeople to sell the warranties by giving them a percentage of the warranty price in their paychecks. But is this the best thing for the consumer? No. The consumer would rather have a widget that lasts forever, so that every 3 or 5 years they won't have to purchase another one. It's better for the environment too, because now all those widgets aren't becoming trash every 3 to 5 years. But the money system, i.e. the business world, encourages, applauds, and even demands that decisions revolve around profit rather than humanity. It's not really about the customers, it's only about the sales. But of course, by the way of advertising, the illusion presented is that it's all about the customers. So the real point and real question is the money system the right system to be in? Do we want to live in a system where profit is placed above all other concerns? We've had to up until now. It has been the only game in town. but we're starting to wake up to the fact that a money system isn't the only way a modern industrial society can function. When my dad lost his farm, his life seemed to fade a little bit. He lost his vitality. Oh, he continued to do what he had to do to keep going, but his heart wasn't in it. Once he got all of us kids through school and we were off on our own, he simply had enough of working. For him, there was no end in sight. He was never able to put anything away for retirement, so one day he decided to take a long rest, the only way he could keep his self-respect. He laid down for a nap and never woke up. The whole thing just didn't seem right to me, that a man who worked hard all his life, lived a good life, never shirked responsibility, could end up so destitute and psychologically broken like that. We see this happen so often in this world, untimely or unfortunate financial circumstances pulling a person's life right out from under them. This made a very large impression on me. I have a lot of my father in me. Making a lot of money was never my goal either. I just wanted to be content and happy and enjoy what I could of life and my interests. I happened to get lucky financially. Circumstances were such that I was in the right place at the right time, and fortune smiled on me. People think that growing up poor, I must have had this unquenchable determination to become rich, and it drove me to where I'm at today. But it's not true. My goal was just to try and get a decent job and hopefully hold on to it long enough to retire. Well, I did get a good job, entrance-level position with an established company, whose product, through advancements in technology, later became obsolete. But someone, not me, saw the writing on the wall and restructured the whole product line to try to compete in a newly emerging field. It was only partially successful, and it went through a series of buyouts and mergers, and along the way, I ended up with a group of very talented guys that split off and started a company on the cutting edge of a brand new market. There were disagreements and extenuating circumstances, and eventually the group split up, and each went their own separate ways into different areas. I didn't particularly have another area to go into, so I stuck with the disbanded company and out of desperation tried to keep it afloat. I interviewed a group of inexperienced young people straight out of college. I was looking for a team, any team, just to get things going again. I remember that most of the candidates that I felt had the most potential and were most qualified declined, due to offers from other more established companies. So from those that remained, I just ended up choosing those that I liked the best, personally. Well, as fate would have it, they turned out to be real hotshots. They were so happy to get the job, their first real job, that they put their heart and soul into it and turned that teetering company into a gold mine. And so here I am, through no particular talent of my own, on top of the world. But I can't forget about my father and all those out there like him. Just a twist of fate here or different circumstances there, and I might also have been struggling financially all my life. There are those who say it isn't luck, and that might be true to some extent for many who have scrapped and scraped their way into financial prosperity, fighting and working hard for what they have. I respect and commend them, but I don't envy them. Making financial wealth your goal in life can often cause you to compromise other important aspects like family and even ethics. It can become an obsession. This certainly isn't always true, but we see so many examples of this. And for everyone that succeeds, there are hundreds, thousands that don't, who gave up so much of their lives trying. And so, though I'm counted among the wealthy, I am a strong proponent of this cooperatism thing. Yes, I am glad I have a lot of money. I'm glad mainly because in this, our current money-run culture, money is needed, and it has made and continues to make my life so much easier. Although I can't say that's also true for many of my peers who continue to make it an obsession in their life. In many cases, it has brought tragic problems and sorrow. But I can honestly say I would willingly forego my wealth to live under a system such as cooperatism. This is true for several reasons. I believe humanity as a whole would be far better served by cooperatism. It would eliminate so much of the tragedy and injustice that we hear about and experience on a daily basis. Hunger, homelessness, most crime, and untold stress over financial worries. It would also allow everyone to truly have equal opportunity in any endeavor in life, giving all of those less fortunate diamonds in the rough the freedom and ability to develop, contribute, and share their unique talents to this world without being discouraged, blocked, or thwarted financially by the system. Also, I don't believe honestly that I'd be giving up all that much. I don't live a particularly extravagant life. I have no desire to. It's nice not having any financial worries, but I have no compunction to spend lavishly. I'm happy to be able to provide very well for my family, the people I love, but under cooperatism, everyone is provided for. So what would I be giving up? The power of my wealth? But under cooperatism, what need would I have for that power? I'd rather have my children and their children born into a world without financial worry, without financial struggle, without the atrocities that a money system breeds by way of greed and power. A world where to pursue one's dreams doesn't require money. A world where people's lives don't need to be financed. A world where it doesn't cost money just to live. What better inheritance could there be than that? And it's a guarantee. You can't say that in a money system. No matter how much money you are able to pass on to your children, in a money system, there are no guarantees. So for me, I'm giving back. And for me, there seems to be no better way than to support and be involved with the League, working toward what I consider to be a better future. And I'm delighted to see that there are others like me, those who, though wealthy, have vision enough to see that the money system, though tremendously good to us personally, is not, in general, good for or beneficial at all to most of humanity. Whether or not cooperatism is the ultimate answer or not remains to be seen, but at this moment in time, it seems as though it's the only one heading in the right direction. Other possibilities may grow out of it, or it may evolve and change over time into something far different from our current picture. But the basic philosophy of the system, everyone shares equally in the upkeep and everyone shares equally in the benefits, handling all the basic common chores in life, freeing our time and minds to concentrate on our dreams, is the right direction. End quote. John remembers the day Carl presented his groundbreaking idea. Quote, Carl came rushing in that day, clearly excited, saying, I've got it. I know how we can make it work. We weren't sure what he was referring to. He said, a resort. We'll build a resort. That's how we'll fund our cooperatist city. We'll make it into a vacation resort. We were all just looking at him, slowly trying to decipher what he was getting at. Like Disney World, he said. Carl then explained to us. I was watching television and happened to see an ad for Disney World, and all of a sudden it just hit me. Of course, I thought, a resort. All of those miniature scale models our guys have been putting together for years depicting designs of a cooperative city were fresh in my mind. They were so high-tech and futuristic, and that's how I'd always thought of Disney World, futuristic, high-tech, and forward-thinking, with its monorails and creative architecture. The two images just made this connection, and then I realized that that is how we get capitalism to fund and support our cooperatist city, by making it a resort. At first, it would not be a cooperatist city. It would just be a resort, a high-tech, state-of-the-art, futuristic family resort, a vacation paradise. But the design would reflect the models we have for a cooperative city. And over time, although it would remain a resort, it would be able to function more and more as a cooperative city, becoming less and less dependent on the outside world to support its interior functioning. It would have, by way of paying guests, a continual, sustained income. We'll have to research and analyze this, of course, and run the numbers, but this might be a way to build and maintain our working model. Initially, this would be a Gragon project, officially, not a League project. This will be approached and accomplished like any other profit-making venture. Gragon will utilize all of its financial resources to fund this project. And this is the time for those of us with wealth to make a solid financial commitment to this cause. We would become the investors, allowing Gragon to finance this project through us, privately. Our incomes should remain independent of this venture. They derive from other sources, other businesses and investments outside of the League and Gragon that each of us controls. So I propose that our agreement with each other and with the League is that we willingly forego any income and profit from the project. All profit would be directly funneled back into the resort itself. We would be able to recoup our initial investments in the project, plus interest at a very modest percent. The rate of interest not being designed to increase our wealth, but rather as a buffer against inflation, devaluing our initial investment. End quote. Milt recalls his reaction, quote, "And that's how he presented it. It was the idea we'd been looking for. After he explained it, the idea seemed obvious, and we all wondered why none of us had thought of this sooner. At first, we were all assuming a location in the United States, but Jordan steered us away from that assumption. He favored more of a European location. He didn't think it was wise to directly compete with Disney World as well as the other numerous successful family resorts in the United States. In his mind, it should be the European alternative to Disney World, drawing on the entire European population as patrons. It would be highly accessible and visible to the people of a multitude of surrounding developed capitalistic money-based economies of various diverse nations. He convinced us. So, for these reasons, Europe became the target for the project. Many European sites were considered, but the final decision was to build it in the country of Belgium. There were various reasons for this. It had central location, it was highly developed and technologically advanced in many ways. Also, the country as a whole seemed to be the most receptive to the idea, believing in the project's ultimate financial success and attracting tourists and money to the region. Their interest was predominantly economic." End quote. After much debate internally within Belgium, an agreement was finally reached for its location. Construction began. Milt gives us some of his observations. Quote, "The final design of the complex was breathtaking. The League's architects and engineers had incorporated every aspect of all of the many designs and models they'd been dreaming up over the years, and seemed to have anticipated every nuance of functionality and practicality blended with aesthetic and chic, modern, futuristic lines and contours that looked like something out of a science fiction movie. I couldn't even imagine how magnificent and stunning it was going to look in real life. Of course, it would take decades to complete, and I can only hope that I'm still around to see it." End quote. Jordan explains, quote, "The resort will be massive and impressive, but will only be part of the overall complex. When fully completed, it will be nothing less than a small city, but a city designed from start to finish, from the ground up. It won't be your usual collection of box-type buildings of various heights bunched together in tight areas. No, this had massive domes and archways and S-curves and sleek, high-speed monorails winding through a magic maze of unique complexes, each designed to fit with and complement its surroundings. It had scenic cable car skyways ascending over acres of these complexes. Space was used creatively. Nothing was crowded, yet everything was easily accessible, like a well-designed modern airport. Hopefully, our vision for the resort will materialize into something as financially successful as we anticipate it to be, or this whole dream will go up in a puff of smoke. We have a good business plan, and we've certainly done our homework on this. However, one never knows. Business and economics can be quirky and unpredictable. The resort, along with the planned attractions, will be the first priority. As that gets going and hopefully starts being profitable, then the rest will slowly be added, piece by piece, as funding allows. The league's financial heavyweights, the financial backers of this project, all turned out to be quite generous with their terms and with their funding. Without that generosity, this project wouldn't have had a chance at starting out on this kind of magnitude. Its beginnings would have been far more modest, and its eventual growth much slower. The tremendous success we've had with the Gragon Corporation and all of its subsidiaries has proved indispensable in our ability to make this happen." End quote. Patty tells us, quote, "I clearly remember surveying the site before the construction began, thinking, is this really going to happen? I tried to imagine the miniature models of the resort we'd built superimposed on the landscape in front of me. I just couldn't make it fit. In the beginning, the site resembled any other construction site. Heavy machinery was transferring and leveling the terrain. Then foundations began to be built and the underground systems were constructed, all very closely supervised by Gragon's architects and engineers. It was some time before you could begin to make out the possible shape it would all take. Though unimaginative to some, Alpha City was the name the project was given and ultimately became the name of the resort. It had a futuristic scientific ring to it, yet at the same time it sounded fun and playful, and for cooperatists, the inference to its becoming, in time, the first of its kind was appealing." End quote.